This is our first session. So I wanted to just firstly say with module number one, it is a shorter module. I wanted to really cover and go over some real basics here with blockchain and crypto essentials. But as I said, it is a shorter module. I want to put some key definitions in here. So some key definitions with crypto so people have an understanding and start to gain a grasp of what exactly all this space is. And each module, just so you know, each module will build on the last module as well. Okay. So as we go through each module, it'll build on the last module that we go through. Now, if you are joining us live, we're going to be doing these twice a week. But if you're watching the recorded version, then obviously yeah, you're entering into the membership website, watching the recorded version, so you guys have access to it anyway. And the fourth thing I just want to share with everyone is these are essential stepping stones. So quite often when I've gone through and shared and showed people this space, and even back in the early days, years ago when I was showing people this, I mean, I got into this 8 years ago in 2016, but when I was showing people this, as early as 2017, 2018, I often found quite often people wanted to rush ahead. They wanted to skip ahead, and they wanted to really, I guess you could say, fast track everything. And fast tracking is okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of fast tracking and trying to get results as quickly as we can, but also at the same time, when it comes to learning and it comes to financial education, if you get the stepping stones right and you get the crucial foundations, as I like to call it, right, then everything else on top of that becomes a heck of a lot easier. Okay. So that's one thing that I will say. So the other thing I will say before we kick in and get started here is please be respectful for everyone in the chat if you are joining us live, because we do have a real mixture here of beginners, intermediate, and more advanced people. So there could possibly be some things on here that if you are, intermediate, for example, or more advanced, that are super basic, especially in these first couple of modules. But we're going to be covering absolutely everything. All right, so that's why we're starting at this point. And the final thing I want to say for anyone who's on here with us live, we're going to be having a Q&A at the end of the module. So I won't be doing any questions during the module. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and I'll be happy to go through them at the end of the module. But we won't be doing any questions during the module. It'll be at the end. So therefore, if you're watching the recorded version as well, yeah, you'll be able to watch all the information first, and then we'll have a question and answer at the end, a Q&A at the end. All right. So with that all down and that all cleared now, can I get a yes in the chat? Who is excited and keen to get kicked and started into this and really start pushing? If it is your first crypto venture, especially, really start pushing this to a whole new level. Okay, fantastic. So many yeses in the chat. Thank you all so much. It makes it so much better doing these modules live because we can really bounce off each other and get that vibe going, which is fantastic. So, as I said, there's going to be an opportunity at the end of this module to ask your questions. Please remember and please refrain to asking questions about this module only. So please, at the end of this module, don't go asking, oh, Troy, what about, a layer two solution in decentralized finance or something? Guys, I'm not going to be answering that in the Q&A of blockchain and crypto essentials, all right? Let's keep this to the topic that we are talking about and the subject we are talking about. Any other questions outside of that, obviously, please feel free to email our amazing team. But yeah, like I said, let's keep it to the topic because we need to be respectful and mindful of everyone. If this is their first venture into crypto, well, we're going to be keeping everything to all the questions and all the answers to the actual topic that we're talking about. Okay, so let's get started with blockchain essentials. Okay, now what exactly is a blockchain? So blockchain is a distributed digital ledger. Okay, it's a distributed digital ledger. Now, probably one of the best ways that I've heard this explained is that imagine hundreds of years ago, or maybe not hundreds, but maybe say a couple of 100 years ago, once upon a time, this all used to be documented. For example, if a ship was sailing through the waters, through the oceans, and a captain may have been buying bananas and selling apples, and just doing really basic things. So they might have bought some bananas at one dock and then sold some apples at the next dock. And a ledger is essentially just that. It's essentially a tally. It's a list. It's a documentation of figures that is a verifiable list that someone has written and kind of put in place. So then they know, oh, okay, I sold 5 bananas at dock 1 and I bought 7 apples at dock 2. I sold another 3 bananas at dock 3. I bought 6 more apples at dock 4. So it's literally a ledger. Now, if you want to know the exact meaning of a ledger, please, at any stage, you're allowed to jump onto Google and type in ledger meaning, and it'll tell you exactly that, right? It's a record of facts and figures that have been written down. Okay, so now what is important to know and understand though about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is a decentralized ledger, so it is not centralized. It is a decentralized ledger. So decentralization is an essential part of the future world, in my opinion, because for so long we've had centralization, centralized banks, centralized government, centralized control. And what has been created and what has happened from that? Well, I think we know what has been created and happened from that. Quite simply, is that through centralization, we've had corruption, we've had all sorts of things that go on and take place through centralized banks, through centralized governments. But having a decentralized ledger or a bunch of different different nodes, as we like to call them, or computers worldwide, give us the opportunity to be able to verify the sums that are going through that ledger, right? Rather than just one centralized figure doing that. Because if there's a centralized figure and just one point of, I guess you could say, one point of failure or one point of power that can make all those calls, and what you're going to essentially get over time is the potential to have corruption, the potential to maybe just have a simple mistake of numbers if there's not other people or other entities verifying that. Now, the beauty of decentralization and not having it go and funnel through a centralized source, the beauty of decentralization is that there are many different areas that can verify the numbers or the transactions that take place. So if you look at it from Bitcoin stance, decentralization is key to Bitcoin's future because, as I said, it's no single government, no single entity, no single business, no single corporation will ever own Bitcoin. And therefore, it needs to have a decentralized ledger. So then, thousands of different nodes or computers or whatever you want to call them can verify the transactions worldwide. Now, having this verification, having these nodes on the network, they verify that each of these transactions that are gone through, they verify that they're legitimate. Okay. If there's any node or any one of these nodes that at any time have a different answer to a transaction that's gone through, every other node is going to look at that one and go, well, no, that isn't correct. All the nodes need to line up and have the exact same numbers that are transpired. And the only way that those nodes will then be rewarded with Bitcoin will be to keep to that exact process. Okay. So it's in the nodes, it's in the miners, it's in everyone's best interest that all the transactions are verified and are correct. Now, I'm not going to spend too much longer on this. I just wanted to give everyone a quick overview just to make sure that everyone just has a the basic understanding of what a blockchain distributed digital ledger is and the importance of it being decentralized as well. So let's get started onto where does blockchain add a trust layer to the internet? Because I think this is a crucial part to really start understanding Bitcoin and crypto, because blockchain adds a trust layer to the internet. Because if you have a look here, right, this is traditional internet, and you've often got a person that has a file, and then if that person wants to send that to another person, well, then the other person has a copy of that file, right? That's the traditional internet. You can copy files, and they're not new, they're not unique. It's very hard to prove ownership, right? It's very difficult to prove ownership when you have a file and that person can send it to another person, and that person's then got a copy of that file. It's very difficult to have to really nail down the uniqueness. It's hard to prove ownership, and this is a really really key part of blockchain technology, is the fact that it can verify ownership. Okay, because with blockchain, each file, each transaction, each process that happens has a unique entry on the blockchain. Now, before blockchain technology and when we just had the traditional internet, that was never actually possible. Okay, so entries on a blockchain cannot be copied. They are unique, and ownership can be proven. Okay, it can be proven, it can be verifiable, and this is due to it being a distributed ledger, due to it being a decentralized distributed ledger. The transactions are processed not through a single entity. So therefore, there's no way that any corruption, there's no way that any collusion can take place. Okay. That is the essential part of a decentralized blockchain. Entries on blockchains cannot be copied. They are unique, and ownership can be proven then, because if they're unique, then obviously ownership can be proven. And this is when and why, and I'm not going to go too much further into this on this particular topic, but this is why tokenization, a bunch of you may have heard this. Who put a yes in the chat? Who's heard of people talking about tokenization of real world assets? Who's heard that term before? Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Heaps of yeses coming in. Now, even if you've never heard that term before, don't worry. But tokenization of real world assets is something that's going to be taking place in the future, and blockchain is going to allow that to take place through a digital distributed ledger. Okay, and the fact that it's decentralized, it can be proven, ownership can be proven that they are unique. Now, once again, this is the first module of this process. If this is your first venture into crypto or into Bitcoin or anything else, please, and you're starting to feel confused, maybe, please don't get too stressed. Don't worry too much about that, because yeah, just we're going to be going through a lot of different content here, and I remember the first time that I learned this. I remember the first time that I was told about this, and I really started diving deep into Bitcoin and blockchain and everything else. It took me a very, very long time to wrap my head around it. So give yourself a bit of leeway, give yourself a bit of time to really understand how all this works. Okay, so once again, be easy on yourself. So let's now delve a little bit deeper into how things can be unique and how they can be confirmed and that kind of thing. So we talked about a decentralized distributed ledger. Now, the reason why Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are called literally that, cryptocurrencies, is because they're integrated with cryptography. Now, cryptography, as the screen says here, is the foundation of Bitcoin. So it is undeniable that cryptography is fundamental to the security, privacy, and functionality of Bitcoin. Everything from the public and private keys in a Bitcoin wallet to the Bitcoin mining economy is powered by cryptographic algorithms and processes that have made the protocol what it is today. But even beyond Bitcoin, the integration of cryptography in the Bitcoin network revolutionized the concept of digital money and laid the foundation for the development of numerous other cryptocurrencies and blockchain-based applications. Newer blockchains and cryptocurrencies still employ many of the same cryptographic methods to conduct transactions on the network and to maintain blockchain security. So this is another area that is crucial and critical to understand. That the reason why this is all so secure and the reason why this is all underpinned in such high security is because of cryptography. Okay, and as it says there, cryptography is fundamental to the security, privacy, and functionality of Bitcoin. And we've seen lots of other cryptocurrencies get created off the back of that. I mean, there's so many other different cryptocurrencies that are virtually literally the Bitcoin ledger just copy and pasted. Okay, so it's not a an uncommon thing for plenty of different cryptocurrencies to literally just copy and paste the ledger and the blockchain of Bitcoin. So I wanted to touch on that as well before we move on to the next slide, so people have a better understanding of the security behind Bitcoin. Now, it's also really important to know and understand that blockchain is not going away. Okay, so I mean, I could, and I'm not going to waste your time with this, but I could talk for hundreds of hours about all the reasons why blockchain isn't going away and why I believe that the media and a lot of people that are very uninformed about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies believe it's just a fly by the night thing. But I'm not going to waste everyone's time because everyone that's tuning in here and is either with me live or listening to this recording, you all have an understanding and a belief that that there's something in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies that you can see, and it's been around for 15 years now, moving into its 16th year. It is not going away. It's not going anywhere. So we need to really embrace that, and I think that's what we're starting to see, not just with with retail investors, but also with institutions. Now we have a Bitcoin ETF, a Bitcoin spot ETF. A new asset class that's literally supported by Wall Street, supported by some of the biggest institutional funds in the world, like BlackRock and Fidelity and different organizations like this. We just had presidential electees coming out saying, Donald Trump and RFK Jr. coming out saying that, they're going to fully support Bitcoin and its growth within the American economy and all these kinds of things. So it's without a doubt really getting a stranglehold and really getting a grip on modern day finances as well. The technology is superior. It's the strongest, the most comprehensive computational power and system in the world because of that layer of proof, right? Because it has that layer of proof, because it is has a completely Bitcoin has a completely decentralized distributed ledger. It has that extra layer of proof, layer of security that quite simply is unmatched to anything else in technology in the modern day. More and more applications are going to be built on top of blockchain. Whether we talk, no matter what blockchain you talk, I mean, we're going to be talking about different cryptocurrencies within these modules, but more and more applications are going to be built on top of it. I think what we're going to essentially see here as we move into the coming years is essentially a Web 2.0 and then kind of like a Web 2.5 in a way, I guess you could say. I really see potentially an internet of the future where there's two separate layers to it. There's a layer that everyone, the common folk is a part of, and then there's an additional layer that you can access that is a proper decentralized layer that's going to fully support the growth of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And I think we're in the very beginning process of seeing all that right now. It really is the epitome of modern finance. I don't think there's any other way to explain that. It's the epitome of modern finance, and it absolutely is not going away anywhere. So I just spoke about the internet. So let's kind of delve a little bit deeper into that and talk about the layers of the internet, because this is something I hear all the time, even from well, especially from complete naysayers, is but crypto is not for me, Troy. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It can't be something. It's just not for me. And I kind of like to talk about this topic because I there's no other way of saying this apart from saying, even if you think it's not for you, you're going to have no choice but to use it in the future. Okay. So people who say, oh, Troy, crypto isn't for me, it's not something I'm going to get involved in. I'm sorry, but there's probably aspects that you're already involved in it with your from a financial point of view. And if you're not, you're certainly going to be um, in the future. So many of us start with the mindset of the many, which is crypto's not for me. And then we kind of start, learning, understanding, and educating ourselves and start, start kind of thinking outside the square, shall we say, right? Kind of saying crypto's not for me is kind of like saying the same thing as I'm not interested in the future of the internet, or I don't like making money. Saying crypto is not for me is kind of like saying I think the internet will stay just the way it is and it won't evolve. I know better. That's literally what when you or someone says that crypto isn't for me, it's not something I want to understand or get to know or really get my head around or really, understand just how powerful it is. It's literally like saying those things. It's literally like saying, I'm not interested in the future of the internet. I don't like making money. I think the internet will stay just the way it is. It won't evolve. I know better. I've done this. I've done that. And that's the kind of nonsense that we're going to hear. Now, once again, as I said before, as you are all either joining me live or you're listening to this recording in your membership area and you're going over this, I would like to think that, hopefully you may have done the first step, which is at least given yourself the opportunity to learn this. Because in my opinion, learning this is going to genuinely change not just your financial future, but everything that you know and understand about how the world operates and how it works. So we're missing out on the future layers of the internet if we don't really start wrapping our head around this, right? And this is how the internet kind of started, right? Started information. We moved into the social part of the internet, the kind of social age of the internet. We're kind of going into the trust and ownership side now through being able to verify through decentralized distributed ledgers, who owns something or who owns a file, who owns that cryptocurrency, that Bitcoin, like all that kind of technology is what we have right now. And I believe the next layer, and we're literally on this layer already, is the money layer, the money layer of the internet, where there is going to actually be a currency or currencies that literally you can use on the internet and you can interact with and interchange with. When this layer is happening, you can own the protocols. You can make more money as it gets adopted, because that is when things are really going to open up. The beauty about all of you being here, listening to this, watching the recording, whatever it may be, you're here before that final layer is complete. Because when the bottom layers happen, it means that big companies have made money, right? And we've already seen that. We've seen the information layer, the social layer have taken place. We're in the trust and ownership layer, and we're heading very quickly to the money layer. So it's super important that if you like to make money, or if you at the very least want to have a better understanding of how the internet is going to work in the future, that you start wrapping your head around cryptocurrencies and blockchains and a blockchain technology and really start delving into it. Because, as I said before, when the money layer is happening, that's when you can start to own protocols. You can make more money as it starts getting adopted. And I believe that we've got roots kind of reaching into that area right now. We're already well and truly in the trust and ownership layer, and the money layer is where we can really triple down on what we already know. So it's super important to not just learn about crypto and blockchain technology from a knowledge standpoint, but understand that it can truly change the direction and the future for yourself and your family from a financial and not just from a financial point, but also from a just from a pure understanding of how the layers of the internet work. Because whether we like it or not, blockchain isn't going anywhere the same way that the internet is absolutely not going anywhere. So that brings us to our next slide. Okay. So our next slide here is overcoming common objections, which is something that I think all of you will start seeing potentially and start going through. And these can be these could start out as objections that maybe you potentially had. Maybe you had some of these objections to start with, and then you started to learn more and started to understand more, and then you're like, oh wow, hang on a second. There is something here with this Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. But this is something that that I really feel to get to the real masses, we need to overcome these objections. And this is one of the big ones that I especially have been hearing a lot lately, which is Bitcoin is bad for the environment. The informed investor response to that is quite simple. The majority of the Bitcoin miners have now actually moved to renewable energy. And we see this in a lot of the different areas, for example, in that the miners are running, for example, in the Nordic area, for example, your European areas around Finland and Iceland and areas like that. There's so many areas where they're literally utilizing the cool air that they have outside of the mining facility to cool everything down inside it, right? And there's tons of different examples of renewable energy being used within the Bitcoin network. And this is something that, as I said, has been brought up before. And it won't go away, and it's a key thing, but it's important to understand that as an informed investor, it's just simply not the case. The next big one is when it comes to kind of price, right? Now it's too volatile, and the amount of times I've heard this from people who have looked at it and gone, oh, geez, I think I want to buy some, but I just think it's too volatile. Well, the informed investor response to this is, well, this is true, but it's the case in all young and rapidly growing markets, right? There's a very famous saying that happens within Bitcoin, which I want to share with you all now, and you may have heard this before, you may have not, and it's kind of this mightn't be it word for word, but you guys will understand. It's basically that if you can't put up with my 70% reductions, right, which happens in a bear market, Bitcoin can go down up to 70, 80%, sometimes even slightly more. If you can't put up with my 70 or 80% reductions, then you shouldn't be able to appreciate my 500 or 600% gains. Okay, so it's part and parcel of being part of a young and flourishing and rapidly growing market that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are. And I often say to people, you need to embrace it. Don't fight it. Don't think that, oh, this is too volatile, it's not worth it. I don't want to take those risks. And yeah, of course, you should absolutely not be taking unnecessary risks. And you'll hear me say a million times during these modules and anything else that you may hear me say, which is quite simply, only ever put into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, what you can afford to lose or what you're comfortable with. Or I like to tell it more so, do the sleep test with it. So, if you can't sleep at night and you're finding yourself waking up at all hours of the night checking Bitcoin's price, then there's a very high probability that you've got too much invested in the crypto market, right? But that's the same goes to any market, right? You may have a stock or a share that you're obsessed with checking, or whatever it may be. No matter what it is that you're trading, or that you're holding, or whatever it may be, if you're waking up all hours of the night worrying about it and checking it, then chances are you've got too much money in it. Okay. But like I said before, embrace the volatility, because that is the case for all young and rapidly growing markets. Now, a very big one here, and you all may have heard this multiple times. I know I have. If I had a dollar for every time I heard this, I'd be a very, very rich man. What if the government shuts it down? And the informed investor response to this is quite simple. Regulation of the industry is in its early stages, but no government can shut it down. It's impossible, as it is a global trust and value layer to the internet. Now, there was there's been plenty of documentation on this, but effectively the genie is completely out of the bottle. Since about 2014, it's really, there's no way for there ever to be ever to have enough direct computational power to overthrow the Bitcoin network. It would be a complete waste of any one government slash entity's time, because quite simply, even if they even attempted or tried it, they may potentially have got into infiltrated a potential block, but within 10 minutes and the next block happening, they're going to be kicked out anyway. So it's just not viable or possible in any way. And that is why we're seeing, the US now completely, embrace Bitcoin. And no matter who the president comes in, they got no choice but to embrace Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. We've seen from the past, China's a great example, tried to ban Bitcoin and crypto and things like that. And it's just not possible. You can't do it. Anywhere that has the free internet, it's quite simple. You can't um, you cannot ban this thing, because as it's stated there, it's a global trust and value layer now to the internet. So no government, no corporation, no industry, no anyone, no anything can possibly shut Bitcoin down. This is another one that makes me laugh a lot. I always have a good laugh at this one when people tell me this, because I just realized how uninformed that person must be. It's used by criminals. It makes me laugh, especially when a politician or someone says that. It makes me have a good laugh, because they're either extremely dumb, which is highly probable if they're a politician. That's not a blanket rule, but I think you all agree with me there. Or the second thing is they just quite simply don't understand how money essentially works, and the fact that the US dollar is the most used currency in history to be used by criminals, and that's not going to change anytime soon. And also, once again, it's a complete uninformed statement from people that quite simply don't understand or get how the market works. So this certainly was the case early on. Predominantly, there was a bunch of different nefarious websites and things like that that use Bitcoin as payment. But due to its public ledger nature, most transactions are now traceable, and it's really not ideal for crime. Okay, if you can trace a transaction, which you can with the Bitcoin blockchain and the Bitcoin network, quite simply because it's an open ledger, right? So anyone in the world with an internet connection can view it. It kind of doesn't make it the best transaction idea if you're a criminal, right? Whereas dollars and cash, so we say, is much easier to make disappear. Whereas where Bitcoin is that transaction that you make is loaded into the Bitcoin network, and it's there for eternity. It'll never leave the ledger. So therefore, it makes it quite traceable as a public ledger, and certainly not ideal for criminals. And the final one, I mean, there's so many I could have here. I kind of did the top five that I get that I get told all the time, but Bitcoin doesn't have any real value. And this is something that, like I said before, I mean, it really couldn't. Once again, anyone that says this, once again, they just quite simply are either very, not very smart. That's saying it in a nice way, or they just quite simply have never looked into and understand how Bitcoin and blockchain technology works. Because I often say to people, and you'll hear this said in the Bitcoin community, is that if you do 100 hours of study on Bitcoin, it's virtually basically no one after doing 100 hours of study on Bitcoin walks away and goes, "Oh, this is no good. This is not something that I would like to do." If you do the genuine 100 hours worth of study, um, you truly understand just how powerful this thing is and how it cannot be stopped and how it is truly decentralized from any centralized government or centralized control in any way. It's the hardest money in the world. There's nothing that can crack this, and that's why Bitcoin really does have value. And as it says here, Bitcoin value is determined by supply and demand as it has limited supply and a large demand to own it. Now, the reason why it's got a large demand to own it is for all the reasons that I literally just said before, right? About it being decentralized, about it being, the hardest money you can own, all that kind of thing. And the supply, the reason why it's supply and demand, the demand is so high, we kind of understand that now. Put a number one in the chat if you understand from what I've just said why the demand would be so high for this thing, why the demand for Bitcoin is so incredibly high based on everything I've just said. Yeah, okay, awesome. Lots of ones coming in. Well, to add into that, guys, is that the supply, all right, the supply makes it extremely valuable as well because there quite simply is only 21 million of these of Bitcoins in that can ever be in existence. And currently, it's approximately around 19, just over 19.5 million have been mined. We're going to go into greater detail on this on how all this works, but approximately about 19.5 million Bitcoins have been mined so far. But that's all there is in existence. Now there can never be any more than that. All right. It's cryptographically written into the ledger that there can never be any more than 21 million. So if we use very, very simple supply and demand, supply tells us that supply is fixed, so it can't be any more. So it's already a million times better than any government issued currency, right? Because what do government issued currencies do? Well, they can be printed into oblivion. You can print as many dollars as you want. You can print as many Australian dollars, New Zealand dollars, US dollars, pound, euro, whatever, right? Doesn't matter. All government issued currencies are the same. They're just printed into oblivion. So the supply issue is taken care of because there's a fixed amount. There can never be any more. And all the reasons that I stated before is why demand's so high. So if you've got a product, if that the supply stays the same, it's fixed, and the demand consistently goes up, is price going to go up or down in reaction to that, right? Of course, it's going to go up, right? Supply is fixed, demand consistently increases. Of course, the price is going to go up. Now, this is why in 2009, 2010, Bitcoin was worth a few cents, and today it is worth around 70,000 US dollars and rising consistently, right? Because what Bitcoin is and everything it stands for and everything it actually is and created for is in complete opposite, is the complete opposite to what a government issued currency is, right? It is the ultimate deflationary asset where a government currency is quite simply completely full of inflation, right? And it's the reason why we've seen inflation absolutely skyrocket especially over the last several years, right? Whereas Bitcoin is the ultimate deflationary asset. It's the ultimate deflationary hedge to have against any kind of inflated instrument that you might own, like the dollar, all right, as an example. So once we start understanding this and we start seeing this and we start going, okay, cool. Well, this all starts to make sense. I can see why this has value. I can see why supply and demand is makes sense in regards to why the price keeps going up. So there's a couple of common terms I want you guys to wrap your head around. Now, the first one is this is a very simple chart of what a bull market means, but if price goes up over time, right, over a period of time, that means that price is in a bull market. All right. That's what bull market means. Now, if price goes down over time, now this can be in any time frame. It doesn't have to be a specific time frame, but if price goes down, it's a bear market. All right. So we've got bull market means the price goes up, and bear market means the price goes down. All right. So I just wanted to clarify that as well, as far as the essentials of knowing and understanding the essentials of how crypto works, because when we start talking about price action and we start talking about how you can capitalize on price action, I want you guys who are complete beginners, which is totally fine. It's lovely that you're here being a complete beginner. I want you guys to really understand what it means in a bull market. Bull market essentially means the price of your coin goes up, and bear market essentially means the price of your coin is going down. So traditionally, we have found that over time, the best way to make money in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies is to be dollar cost averaging into the market. All right. Now, essentially, what dollar cost averaging means is that over a period of time, whether that be, once a week, once a month, whatever that may be that you choose, you decide a dollar amount of Bitcoin or crypto that you want to buy. Let's say that amount's $100 a week or $100 a month or whatever it may be, and you simply purchase that Bitcoin, the Bitcoin or that crypto, the same every single week. So maybe you might do it every Thursday, you might do it every Tuesday, maybe you do it on the first Wednesday of every month, or whatever it is, right? And you quite simply, whether the price of Bitcoin, whether the price of crypto is shooting up or whether it's going down, you're buying $100 worth or whatever the amount is that you decide. Now, traditionally, and we'll get into this in future modules. I wanted to keep this super basic for this first module, but traditionally, what we want to do and what we're going to do and what I'm going to share and show with you all, how you can become part of the Crypto New Rich to do it this way, is we want to be dollar cost averaging over several months, sometimes even longer than that, when the market's in a bear market, right? So you can see here on the left, prices is dipped down. Now, as it's dipping down, remember what I shared with you guys earlier, right? As it dips down, that's a bear market. As it goes up, it's a bull market. So as the price is down, that's when we want to be dollar cost averaging and buying, right? As the price is down. And then over time, as the price starts going up, that's when we want to be dollar cost average selling over several months, right? So as the price is moving up, that's when the same way that we may have, purchased $100 a week while the price was down, when it goes up, we want to then start taking our profits off the table, right? So if we've made 5 times our money, maybe the price has gone up 5 times from where you bought it, where you averaged in, fantastic. So if you've bought in, say, $100 per week, when it was down, you might decide to take out of the market $500 per week, right? So I'm just using a very, very, very basic analogy here, but that's the kind of thing that I mean, is that when we're in a bear market, we want to be buying. When we're in a bull market, that is when we're looking to sell. All right. Now, once again, going to touch on this a lot more in later modules, but I wanted to keep this first module super basic. So for people who are brand new, bear market means prices down, we're buying. Bull market, prices have gone up, we're selling. We're doing the opposite. We're doing the opposite to what the masses are doing. So if everyone else is buying, that's when we're selling. If everyone else is selling, that's when we're buying. Okay. You do the direct opposite to what the masses are doing, also known as counter cyclical, right? There's a very cyclical nature to Bitcoin and crypto. It goes over cycles, and you guys are going to learn all about the cycles in the coming modules. But it's important to know the whole aim here is, guys, right, is to, if you want to make profit off Bitcoin and crypto, which I imagine that's why you're all here, you want to make profit. It's essential, so essential. I cannot emphasize this enough, for us to be buying when everyone else is selling, and selling when everyone else is buying, right? So we're buying in bear markets, we're selling in bull markets. Okay. Now we're going to drill a lot more down into that, and kind of understand, different ways of how to do it, and how to really capitalize on that. But I just wanted to keep it super simple for the first module, so you guys completely wrap your head around and understand we want to be being counter cyclical here. We want to be doing opposite to what the masses are doing. If you do opposite to what the masses are doing, there's a very, very good chance that you're going to make money in this space. So that brings us, as I said, this is a shorter module, our first module. That brings us to an end for our first module. Now, our next module that we're going to be going into is called Bitcoin Essentials. Okay, Bitcoin Essentials. Now, if you're with us live, you'll know when that is taking place. If you're watching the recording, all you simply need to do is quite simply stop this video and go to the next one. The next one is going to be Bitcoin Essentials, where we're going to dive into everything to do with Bitcoin, everything to do with just how powerful it is, and how you can start taking advantage of it. So like I said, we're laying some very, very simple foundations here to start with. I guess I have to say apologies if that's the word, if you already know or knew these basics, but everyone has to start somewhere, and because we have so many new people joining the community, which is wonderful and I love to see, I want to make sure that everyone starts with the super basics and the foundation. So even if you knew everything that I've just kind of gone over in the last hour, I hope that you may have picked up a few extra things as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into a Q&A. Okay, we're going to go into a Q&A, and I'm going to be opening my chat here now so I can go over any questions that that you may have. So remember, we want to keep this to the topic that we've been talking about tonight. All right. So I'll be happy to answer any questions around the topic and everything that we spoke about tonight. Okay. Anything outside of that, please understand and respect the fact that we want to be keeping this on topic each module that we do. So with that in mind, feel free if I missed your question, if you may have put it in earlier, feel free to put it in again. But I will start going through these questions now. So bear with me a second. Okay. Oh, thank you, Robert. I appreciate the kind words. I'm glad you got a lot out of that session. Thank you, Laurie, as well. Yes, Eve, I am recording this Q&A. Absolutely. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it, mate. Thanks for the kind words. Melinda's asked, what would possibly happen when all the Bitcoins are mined? So this is a great question, Melinda. So just so you guys know, and especially for people who are completely brand new to Bitcoin and crypto, with Bitcoin, the final Bitcoin will be mined in the year 2130 to 2140, right? So literally 110, 120 years away yet. So there's really nothing to really worry about that long after any of us need to worry about it. So what happens then in 120 years time? Anyone's guess, Melinda, but I would like to think by then, hopefully we absolutely have a system that's much more fair and equitable to everyone. And I think Bitcoin's a key part in ensuring that happens. Yeah, absolutely, James. Bank transfers are getting tighter. We've got centralized banks that are consistently, seem to be squeezing us, and not allowing us to do the most simple of basic transactions. Okay, find the next question. Thank you everyone for the kind words who are saying thank you in the chat. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of people saying it, so I truly do appreciate it. Sorry if I don't read out everyone's names, but thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Yes, thank you, Debbie and John. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's get into some questions down here now as well. Brian said, wealthy people in America saying and are buying Bitcoin. Do you still recommend Ethereum over Bitcoin? Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. So, and you guys will notice this. We're going to go over this, and you guys will all get my top 10 portfolio that I believe to take advantage of in this current upcoming proposed bull market that we're heading into. Um, the reason why I like Ethereum so much, Brian, is not that I prefer it to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's my favorite coin. I've always, yeah, I've always loved Bitcoin. I don't think that'll ever change. And the main reason is not just because it was the first coin I ever bought. It's really just because of everything that I just explained in the last hour about how powerful it is and why it's the hardest money there is in the world. Um, I just if we go off prior cycles, Ethereum has made more gains than Bitcoin from the last two bull market cycles, because Ethereum's only been in the last two because it was only created in 2015. So yeah, so that's why I believe to get greater gains in your potential portfolio, you could be looking at getting more Ethereum potentially. But I'm going to share with everyone my winning portfolio of what I believe beginners can really capitalize on. Matthews asked, when setting up my portfolio, do I buy everything in one transaction or do I dollar cost average? This is a great question, Matthew. So that is not something that myself or anyone else can answer for you. What I will say, Matthew, is that it's important to know, and I hope by the end of these modules, you'll have a much better understanding. Or well, I know you'll have a much better understanding by these end of the modules of where we are in the cycle right now. And I think that'll help you, Matthew, to make that decision, whether to dollar cost average or whether to just purchase it all right now. And neither are the right or wrong response. You could do either. Okay. So neither are the right or wrong thing to do there, Matthew. But I'm hoping by these end of the modules, you'll have a clear understanding of what to do. I truly believe you will. Thank you, Erica. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. Leonora said China has banned Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. How is that possible when you said government can't touch Bitcoin and blockchain? Yeah, great question, Leonora. So effectively what I mean by that is now don't get me wrong, I there's even though the word is that they've banned Bitcoin mining and that kind of thing, I always like to say, nerds are always 5 years ahead of any government. And there are people that are still can use it within China. It's just that officially it's banned, right? That's the word on the street. But the thing is this, and you know, I'll open this question to everyone. When was the last time that any governments anywhere or have been able to collude worldwide? Has it ever happened? Could it ever happen? I think the answer is a clear and obvious no, right? So there's going to be a couple of rogue governments here and there, like China and maybe a couple of others that might say, "Oh, we're not going to do Bitcoin. We're not going to allow our citizens to hold Bitcoin." But ultimately, Leonora and anyone else that's wondering, governments worldwide are not going to collude. They can't collude on anything, let alone something like this. Let alone something that massive that's impossible for them to control anyway. Thanks, Michelle. Um, let me see here. Sorry, it's a couple of really long questions, so let me just make sure it's relevant. Okay, Minota's asked, will there be portions of bear markets in a larger bull cycle like the current one where we can dollar cost average in to buy Bitcoin specifically if we have missed larger bear markets? Great question, Minod. So yes, by the end of the modules, I think you'll once again have a better understanding on that. Essentially, there are what we call dips, Minod, and you'll understand what a dip is in the market once you go through and you've watched all the modules, you'll understand what I mean by a dip. Gives you the opportunity to purchase when price drops, where it's ultimately going up, but still price has drops here and there. John's asked, what happens if someone bought Bitcoin 12 years ago and forgot their passwords? It depends how they held it, John, but there's plenty of cases of people who have forgotten passwords or left it in certain places or whatever it may be, and unfortunately that yeah, they that has disappeared. But there is I mean a lot of it is a lot of those news articles out there, a lot of fear mongering as well. Yeah, of course there's instances where that's happened, but the main thing is to concentrate, John, is make sure you don't do that. And we're going to talk about the best ways to safely hold and secure your Bitcoin and crypto. Kirsten's asked, I bought my first Bitcoin this week at around $68,000. Congratulations, Kirsten. Do you think I'm early enough still for the bull market? Yes, so we're gonna talk about this, Kirsten, in the coming modules as well. So I believe, in my opinion, that we still essentially really have a little bit of time before the bull market really kicks in, from a time frame point. But that's a real time sensitive question. So that's something that we would touch on a little bit more in the coming modules. About 19.5 million approximately have been mined at this stage, Sky, Bitcoin. Gemma's asked, will you be recommending what wallets and platforms to use? Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll give you an idea through, we'll be sending out a couple of PDF documents over the coming few weeks, or if you're watching the recording, the PDF documents will be in the membership area of wallets and platforms that we have recommended to use, that we've found are the best. Yes, Rob, we'll be covering a few different cryptocurrencies in this course, not just Bitcoin. We start with Bitcoin because it's the first and it's the I guess most popular, and also how this whole thing started. Yeah, that's a great question, Sky. So Sky's asked, it took 15, 16 years to mine 19.5 million, but yet it's going to be 100 years to mine the balance. Yeah. So great question, Sky. And the reason, and well, you're going to find this out in the coming modules, but the reason why it'll take so long to mine the rest is because every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that are mined halves. So currently at the moment, we're sitting at only 450 Bitcoin getting mined per day. And that's going to be the case till about 2028, and then it'll go to 225 per day. And then 4 years later, it'll be half of that. Then 4 years later, half of that. That's the reason why. It's less and less over time. Yeah, that's why we say it's the ultimate deflationary asset, Sky. Dominic has asked, can government control Bitcoin transactions at point of buying and selling when you're converting back to government currency? Yeah. So one of the things that governments can try and control you with, Dominic, is potentially the on-ramps and the off-ramps, we call them, which is when you're looking to convert your government issued currency for Bitcoin. And then when you're looking to convert your when you're looking to convert your Bitcoin or your crypto back to your government issued currency. So that is an area where governments can try to control, for sure. So that is why it's super important, in my opinion, for this industry to keep growing and give us the ability where we don't ever really need to on ramp and off ramp into a government issued currency. And I believe we're very close to that, Dominic. Okay. The different coins I'm going to be talking about, my top 10 coins, Michelle, I'm going to be discussing them over as we go over these live modules over the next couple of weeks. In my opinion, it's a great time to be purchasing. We're recording this in July 2024. At the moment, I believe it's a great time to be purchasing. But dollar cost averaging is what we want to be doing, and dollar cost averaging into when prices are down, as opposed to where we believe they're going to go, because we believe by the end of 2025, we're going to be seeing some extremely high price movements, and now is a fantastic time to be capitalizing on those potential movements that are going to happen in 12 to 18 months' time. Erica's asked, are there any other crypto coins that have a similar halving structure programmed in like Bitcoin, or is Bitcoin unique in this regard? Now, there's other cryptos that have that kind of thing as well, Erica. The thing is, though, Bitcoin being the first ever cryptocurrency. It's everything's really evolves around that at this stage. I mean, look, that could change in the future, and the market will grow to a point where Bitcoin isn't the main controller of it. But at the moment, majority of it goes through Bitcoin because it's essentially being classified as digital gold, rightfully classified as digital gold. So no, it's not unique in that regard, but it's the only real one that matters, if that makes sense. Um, Deborah's asked, how can we spend profits without putting them back into centralized currency? That's a great question, Deborah. So there's lots of different ways you could potentially do that. I mean, I know there's been plenty of property sales that have happened recently where people have accepted Bitcoin. And there's so many different organizations now worldwide that are accepting Bitcoin. So there are lots of different ways that you can do it. We touch a little bit more on them in future modules as well, Deborah, but yeah, there are even exchanges and so on that have debit cards and things like that. Yeah, exactly right. Jason just mentioned it then, crypto credit cards, right? So there's different exchanges that offer that as well. So there's definitely ways of doing that. And yeah, we will touch a little bit more on that, in future modules, but yes, it is possible. Um, okay. Judy's asked, is Bitcoin the only one that's mined? No, it's not, Judy. It's what mining essentially is what's called proof of work. Right. And there's other cryptocurrencies that use the proof of work model. Now, it's a bit too early on the first module to delve into proof of work, but if you want to know more about it, feel free to go Google proof of work Bitcoin, and it kind of explains how that whole mining system works. But we are going to touch a little bit more on that in future modules. Um, we can touch on that, Johan. So Johan has asked, "Hi Troy, not sure if this question is relevant to this module, but what exactly happens when a Bitcoin is halved?" So it's a great question, and let's touch on it really quickly. So it's not an actual Bitcoin. It's not one of the Bitcoins that are halved. What it essentially means, a Bitcoin halving, is that every 4 years, it means that approximately every 4 years, it means that the actual amount of Bitcoins that are released into the network every day halves, right? So, for example, up until April 2024, there was 900 Bitcoins that got released into the network every day. And ever since April 2024, well, there was a particular date in April 2024, there has been only 450. So what it is, it's the amount of Bitcoins that are released into the network, not a specific Bitcoin that is halved or anything like that. So I hope that makes sense. It's the amount of Bitcoins that are released get halved every 4 years. So it's not the actual Bitcoin that gets halved, it's the supply that gets halved, right? That's what makes it a deflationary asset because it's less and less and less of them getting um, supplied into the network as opposed to the dollar, which is printed trillions and trillions and trillions. So more of them are into the network. So there's a constant devaluing that's happening with the dollar. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's constantly increasing in value, right? That's why it's deflationary. Sky's asked, do you anticipate the one world global bank will happen? Who knows what the future? It's only real speculation at this stage, Sky. Who knows? Look, all I know is that getting into Bitcoin and crypto will be your out to get out of that, Sky, if it ever does happen. Um, Carol has asked, are you going to cover the nuts and bolts of getting started for us newcomers? Yeah. So I think if what you mean by that, Carol, is the nuts and bolts as in how do I purchase some coins, how do I transfer coins, things like that. Um, I'm going to yeah, work on a couple of additional modules for you guys so you have access to something like that. But yes, everything will be covered. All the absolute basics will be covered for you guys to get started. That's the main thing, Carol. Um this whole program has been created to really cover the absolute basics, right? And have you guys have the ability to have a module that you can always look back on and refer to. Um, yeah, so that probably answers your question as well, Grace. Um, Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate the kind words. Yes, thank you everyone for the kind words. It's really appreciated. Obviously, if you're watching this recording back, um, we've just got a chat going here because this is getting run as a live module. I love to do my modules live, so we get questions and things like that. So, yes, and I really appreciate everyone's kind words in the chat. So, thank you all so much. Okay, okay. So, that brings us to a conclusion of the first module of Crypto New Rich. As I said, and as you can see, that is getting shared at the moment. What we've got coming up next module is Bitcoin Essentials. Okay, so that's what we've got coming up next is Bitcoin Essentials. I really, really look forward to everyone hopefully joining us again, being here again. It's been a fantastic session. So once again, thank you all so much. Really appreciate all the kind words as well. And I will see you all in Module 2 Bitcoin Essentials. It's bye for now.